Here's a quick walkthrough of the Pokeconfig tool. At the top of the screen we can see the version of the software and the version of the logic on the FPGA. So 123 is the core version, M16 is the size of the FPGA, HK is the type of the core. Now on Pokeymax V3 there's only one type at the moment, which includes all of the chips. So you've got 4 Pokeys, 2 SIDs, 2 PSGs and a Covux/sample player device. On some of the earlier Pokeymax V2s it will vary what you have. So going down from the top, we've got the mixing. This is the Poke mixing, and each channel has a volume of a 4-bit volume, and when you play all the channels at once, you could think the volume would just be the sum of the numbers on each one of those channels, and that would be linear mixing. Now that's not actually true on the Pokey, so there's some kind of saturation comes into play, and as you get higher numbers it doesn't quite increase the volume as much, and you can enable that to have the kind of accurate Pokey behavior or the correct behavior. Channel mode is you've got 4 output channels on the Pokeymax, and if you set channel mode to on, then it will route each channel of Pokey to a different output channel on the Pokeymax. So imagine you're just playing one Pokey, then on each pin you'll see each one of your Pokey channels. So off is our default because this isn't normally what we want. IRQs, you can either have IRQs from all the Pokey chips or just Poke1. And Poke1 is the most compatible, so that's our default. Mono support, there's a lot of software that only uses mono Pokey, and we'd quite like to come out of both speakers at once. So if you set it to play on both channels, then it will try to detect mono audio by detecting a prolonged period of silence on the right channel, and if that's detected it will play the left output to both channels, and you can disable that if you don't want it, in which case left goes to left and right goes to right. Post divide sets the output level. Now each one of the 4 audio outputs on the Pokeymax can have from 0 to 5 volts on its output, and if you're playing multiple chips at once, you might not want to use that 0 to 5 volts for just one chip, because then when you play 2 at once it will have to clip because it won't have enough range. So if you set the post divide to 8, then you can play 8 chips at once. 4 you can play 4 chips at once, 2 you can play 2 chips at once, or 1 you can only play 1 chip at once. Now we set it here to 2 because the SID is effectively always playing, because it basically uses signed audio output. GTIA mixing is whether we want GTIA to be mixed in with this channel. Typically we use this on just channel 3 and 4, because on channel 0 the Atari mixes it internally, so channel 1. PSG frequency, we can set the frequency we use for the PSG sound chip. We can either set it to use Phi2, 2 MHz or 1 MHz, and different songs have been composed with different frequencies. You can also decide, you've got 2 PSG chips in here, and you can decide how stereo is handled, and there are a few common methods used: the Polish method, the Czech method, and there's one method which one chip goes to one channel and one chip goes to another channel. With the other methods it was basically done so that 2 channels of one chip went to one side, and 2 went to the other side, or channel A and B to left and channel B and C to right here for the Polish method, or the Czech method with channel A and C to left and channel B and C to right. Now there's 2 common PSG chips, and they have different precision in their envelopes, which makes them sound slightly different, and one's got 16 steps and one's got 32 steps. The PSG volume is very logarithmic, so But basically what this means is if you're trying to combine it with the Pokey and SID playing at once, then it's very quiet. So I've got a setting on here so we can also do that in linear mode. So log's what the original chip does, and linear is quite useful if you're playing both at once. Moving on to the SID, there's two main versions of the SID. The 6581 was used in the original kind of bread bin C64, and it's the one that a lot of people quite like. People say it sounds a bit warmer and so on. It's actually got a lot more errors than the other version of the chip, which is the 8580. It's basically they kind of matched the data sheet much more correctly when they redid the chip for the C64C. So on the 6581 the filters are all over the place and no two chips that sound the same, while on the 8580 it's much more predictable. And you can set each one, you've got two SIDs in here and you can set the two ones to the different type. And if you set 8580 there's two modes. One is digifix, which makes the samples play right, because when Commodore fixed some of the bugs they stopped the way that people were using to play samples. Restrict allows you to turn off some of the chips, so if you want to just run your system as a mono system, you could say I don't want a SID, don't want Covax, don't want PSG, I just want to have a plain mono Pokey, and you can do that there, and then the software won't be able to detect any of the other chips. Really probably only used for compatibility reasons if you've got some particular software that doesn't work. The final setting is really, now the Atari's clock is either 1.77 megahertz in PAL or 1.79 megahertz in NTSC, and if we want to get 1 megahertz the Commodore way, there's a different way of working out the frequency, either 5/9 to the PAL frequency or 4/7 to the NTSC frequency. Now Pokeymax doesn't actually know the system clock frequency, so you have to set it up in here. If you got the wrong one, it doesn't matter too much. For most songs you won't really notice. And once you are done, you can hit apply to apply the configuration changes just for now, or you can hit store config to write them to flash where they're read once the Atari power's on. Now it doesn't apply as well, so it will only get applied once you reboot it or you apply it manually here. Now there's a couple more settings on here. There's update core and verify core. And if you do update core, you can update to a new core version. So for this at the moment I don't have any flexibility. You've got to put it in default and you've got to call it core.bin. Now from time to time I'll upload new versions of this to my website. Now if this doesn't work, then you're going to need a USB blaster to fix it. So don't turn the power off if it fails halfway. Do everything you can to try and restart the process. You should be able to kind of break out of it and restart it if it didn't work. And if not, you'll, as I say, have to get a USB blaster, which are pretty cheap on eBay, and send us a PM and we'll help you out to reflash it. And once you've flashed it, there's a verify config which will read back from the flash, the core version, just to check it's all stored properly. And that's it.